So are veteran players playing in standard in today's age? I made a recent poll asking about this question where like people that have been playing 5 to 10 years, are they still playing Vanguard? But not only that, but are they playing in standard specifically? This is not everybody. Obviously, this is just like a small indicator depending on my audience poll. But I wanted to see what it looked like at this point. But as we can see, for the majority, people are playing in standard. So really what has brought up this question specifically too? If we think about it, Vanguard has been around for 10 plus years and has been through 2 reboots. Name 5 other games that have gone through 2+ reboots and is still around to this day. Over the years, the complexity and mechanics have changed too, so that has also divided people's interests and also to see if they even like the newish mechanics compared to the old days. One of the differentiating factors that I remember from Vanguard, specifically comparing it from like Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon, is the conception of having an avatar. If you watch the original show, we saw like Aichi becoming into Blaster Blade and many other phenomenal characters into their phenomenal units, specifically the ones that are like more humanoid-like. It developed this clan identity of sorts that people can resonate and also like identify with their clan essentially and almost like represent their clan as like their favorite clan. And there's always something for somebody, whether it be like football with spikes or paladins, and you have like 3 choices with paladins. You could be more edgy like the Shadow Paladin, you could be more royal, or you could be just like flashy with the gold paladins. So many different clans to have these aesthetics that are more unique per clan rather than nation as a whole. About 3 to 4 years ago, we already saw that these clans became into these 5-6 nations, where essentially Bermuda Triangle became its own one nation, and then everything else stayed the same for the most part. And then Stoicheia is the amalgamation of Aquaforce, Granblue, and then Zoom Nation. And this is where I transition into maybe like the minority where it's kind of negative, or they're not playing standard into this age, where it feels too generic in that sense too. And especially if in the first wave, the clan that you played for years was it actually being represented in those decks. So for example, you have decks like Magnolia and Zorga. Magnolia literally looks like Great Nature, but can attack from the back row as well, which kind of gave it this Aquaforce feel. And then Zorga was like Necromancer stuff, but it was Granblue. And if you came from Yu-Gi-Oh, it's kind of like Spellbook, so it's like Spellbook Granblue. However, if you were like a Neo Nectar fan or maybe a Mega Colony player, you kind of felt like your clan was like just kind of like sprinkled in with the artwork of the supplemental units. So think about like the starter decks essentially too. And then other iconic cards like Elania, for example. So if you didn't have an interest with these decks starting off with Overdress, some people just weren't really to retry again, 6 months later or a year later or 2 years, 3 years, and so on. So finally somebody like brings it up or mentions it to them essentially. So they can literally go years without playing standard, but still play with premium or even be premium and still enjoy Vanguard to that degree. Now, the biggest thing that I think everybody can agree to is the OT. Just having a card that instantly kind of heals you, and also the 100 million power up is like ridiculous. It's very powerful. So that at the same time, like even if you have this skilled, played out strategy and it's all thrown out the window because of an OT, it's really, I guess, aggravating or frustrating is the word, where it's like, why does this exist? So that in itself was already a turnoff. However, if they're still playing premium, it's also there. So it really doesn't solve the problem, right? It is what it is at that point too. And this is the other aspect too with the encounter decks, which is also tied to what the poll also tied into. It's like you have these encounter decks that are bringing back nostalgic boss units. So think about like Maelstrom, Minerva, Dragonic Overlord, Blasters, and so on, right? People were excited to jump into those if they had one that matched theirs. However, that doesn't mean that all 24 clans had the same treatment. In fact, I don't think we even have half of the clans represented yet with encounter decks. The same thing can go with the Stride deck sets like Chronojet Messiah, Shiranui Luard, and then now Night Rose and Harry. And if you're not playing in those G-era bosses, then were you willing to expand into a new deck or just wait until your clan got the Stride deck set too? For example, if you play like Great Nature or Itachi's or even more Akumo, you haven't gotten any encounter deck or you haven't gotten any like Stride deck set support at all. So you're just kind of like twiddling your thumbs, right? However, with all that kind of being the reasons for that small minority, I want to highlight the majority that is positive and where it's good, of course. There are encounter decks and Stride deck sets that are for people too. I'm super excited that I got a chance to play Shiranui for the entire year in standard. and also looking forward to playing Night Rose for next year, for example. I also have fun decks such as like the encounter decks such as Maelstrom and also Minerva, and I'm sure there are players that have resonated with those same decks or different ones like Chrono Jack or Messiah or like Draconic Overlord and stuff. What's also interesting is that even newer players that didn't get a chance to play those iconic bosses like 10 years ago can play them now in today's standard, at least. The other positive thing about it is that it's been 3-4 years now since overdress has become a thing. And at first, it was too simple. If you've already been playing Vanguard for years, you realize that there wasn't much to do with the decks that first year. So after a few games, it kind of gets boring, to be honest, so quickly. And so you're better off using like your time for premium, and that's a little more, you feel like more enjoyment for the longer effort that you put into premium essentially too. However, that's changed over the years too, and now standard has become a little more complex. They added more decks, they added more cards, and so they've supported existing decks within these past first few years. So decks have become a lot more fun to build, to play as well, and also like just even the gameplay itself is a lot more dynamic too. Nothing too crazy too, like this is also like a transition point there where you like sometimes that because we have gotten older too, we have less time. So if we're already playing one format that we're very familiar with, such as like premium, we don't have the extra time to learn a different format too. But standard is simple enough where it can just be picked up and also just play for fun. And especially if you were a person that have walked away from the game because of the reboots or for whatever reason, because life has its priorities and you're coming back, standard is easy to get back into the game. In fact, I've had recent friends that have been away from the game or haven't gotten into standard just yet, that literally within a week's time, they pretty much know how to play the deck that they like. They found something that they like, and they got a few games in with different matchups too, so they know what to expect. And if they have a little more practice and effort, they can really be prepared for the next regional and actually just learn from that experience as well. And also like to encourage other people, like there's going to be more encounter decks, there's going to be more stride deck sets, but also there's going to be more grade 3 bosses. I've also like enjoyed other decks too that weren't like these encounter decks or these stride deck sets. So think about like Welstra, for example, Zorga, and now even like Argo Sirens. So I definitely encourage you to just try out these decks for yourself on CFA or at locals if you have the ability to do so. And you can even proxy cards if need to be before you make that commitment to buy cards too. Also, let me know your thoughts in the comments below too. Love to hear it too. Like, what are some things that maybe have attracted you to play standard, or maybe you've seen friends that were, I guess, quote unquote, stubborn to try standard after so long and have tried standard now. Like, let me know your experiences. I love to hear your thoughts and have a conversation going. If you enjoyed this type of video too, feel free to check out my other prior videos, such as What If Premium Ended. Till next time, amigos. Bye.